Hi, everybody. Welcome to the new normal. I'm your host, Lisa Davis, aka Litecoin Lisa. Today, you have a double dose of truth coming at you. I've got Amy Fulmer from the Grief Goddess. She's joining us. We're going to wrap up some of that information from the Arizona audit. We didn't get to all of it last week because I was traveling and chaotic, but she's got tons of information. She even dug up a little bit more. There's always more stuff coming out. And then we've got Satoshi Sean coming on. He's got great information for us, and we're going to dig into that Facebook outage and see what's going on. We all have some opinions about all of that. So we're so glad you're here. Give us a like, share this video, and give us lots of comments. Let us know what your thoughts are. And we'll be right back on the new normal. We're back. It's a Tuesday. Amy, thank you so much for joining us again. I know you were very gracious in letting me cut the day short last week. I appreciate that. I know we didn't get to everything, but you've even found more information. So we'll get to that in just a minute. Sean, thanks so much for joining us. I'm glad to see you with your very handsome monarch hat on there today. Thanks for jumping in and joining us.
It's smart and snazzy.
Very snazzy. Very snazzy. Amy, do you want to give us kind of a wrap up on what information we brought or where we were, where we left off last week?
Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to keep this really simple, you guys, because it's very complicated. And at this point, it's so interesting. Like nobody wants to talk about this or hear about it. But this is one of those things that there's so much involved and there's so much dirt in this whole thing that if we just let this thing go by, literally our country is slipping under like sand through a sieve out of our fingertips. So last week we had the first round of information about the audit. As I was there, as I saw everything in person, the evidence was absolutely compelling, beyond a shadow of a doubt, down to facts that nobody can deny. Dr. Shiva gave the most compelling report. His credentials are off the top. No one can dispute what he showed as a result of the audits. Dead people voting, ballots not signed, and all of this was well in excess of the margin by which Joey supposedly won, okay? So then my problem was Karen Fan, she opened the presentation, and I think she did the American people an injustice. I'm not bagging on her. But she said, we do know that Joe Biden won the election. That is not true. It's actually not true. And I was shocked because I'm a fan of hers, a huge fan of hers, that she would say that. So I don't know if she got compromised along the way, if the people in the black suits came to her house. I don't know what happened. And so what happened was, Lisa, we were we were trudging through the slog last week. We were going through all the evidence. Then we took a break, and then this week came by. So what I've done is I've condensed everything for you guys and then brought you what we have that's occurred since last week. So this has actually worked out really, really well. And so we've got a couple of slides, not many, but they're nice for you guys because they compile everything super simple. But I want to let you know this. After Karen Fan finished her initial presentation, she called Mark Baranovich, who is the Arizona State Attorney General, on the phone. And she told him that she was submitting all the evidence for him to take a look at, for his office to see if there's fraud, that they have reason to believe that there is. I almost wish she had said this.
Right. Why didn't you say that?
She
at the
didn't.
station?
Right. And she's a very measured, deliberate woman. This woman is not a fly-by-night person. She's very mindful before she opens her mouth. Something was at play there, you guys, something. So now Mark Bronovich, he has this huge pile of information just delivered on a silver platter to him. He's been pretty quiet, but up until the audit, he indicated that if he found out that there was any fraud, that he was going to go for the throat. Now, he's been radio silent with the exception of one tweet from his office. I follow him on Twitter, and he said that he's asking the Arizona Senate to freeze all documentation. I guess because things have a habit of going missing. Routers get scrubbed.
Right.
Like
Sites
suddenly,
with a cloth, things like that.
yeah, data files go missing. Oops, are bad. So he's saying, listen, guys, make sure you hold on to everything because I'm going to want it. So that's all we've heard from Mr. Bronovich. Now, what I want to do, Lisa, is I want to kind of tie this presentation and last week's together, because at this point, I believe that this has been swept under the carpet by the bad guys. And there's so many distractions going on in our world. We're all aware of what is going on. And this is so important. So we have what I think is very good news in something that they're desperately trying to bury. Because again, if this does not get fixed on some level, we've got no country, guys. I mean, when I say we got no country, we got nothing.
Yeah, we're definitely in a constitutional crisis right now.
I've always been, I call myself the realist. You can call me the doom and gloom guy, but this week has I don't think we do anymore. I'm more sure of that than ever. There's an old Latin saying, and Spanish speaking people still use it. We have laws, but we have no justice. And I think that's what we're facing here. I've watched the other side, and all the hard work, everything that's been going on, it's dismissed in a matter of seconds. Other states that are taking up the cause, they're dismissed. Oh, there's another wacky, stupid fake audit. And it's just, before it gets started, it's shot down. And so many people just take it. And now when I see the work that's been done and I see the things that have been found, I just think of someone who's prepared something and done so much work, and then turns this proposal or something over to their boss or to whoever, and that person just takes it and put it in the trash. It doesn't matter. Even though it's so important, and it could change so many things in that country or wherever. In that country, that company, whatever, they just take it and put it in the trash. And I see that happening. And I honestly feel that unless there's some leader or someone that stands up, and it has to be, I think, pushed by force. Even just one state, and I was talking to Lisa about this, just if it happens. But I think that what's gone on and what they found is so important, because that has to be the foundation that's laid for. So it's not just a bunch of rowdy rabble-rousers. It's people standing on the foundation and forcing the checks and balances to be put in place and utilized the way it was supposed to. And I think if that happens, if it really does go through, and it does happen, and people force that issue by any means, I think if they force it in one state, calls it out, I think the evildoers will turn on each other. I think all the other states will just fall like dominoes. No, she made me do it. He made me do it. They did. It's going to just go like that. When people start to be held accountable and can't hide, that the problem is that no one has any fear. And governments are supposed to fear the people, right, and they don't. And until they do, they just go back for decades.
So do you think it will be one state?
For lots of stuff.
Do you think it will be the one state that causes the others to fall, or do you think it'll be something like this where so Wendy's posting that 92 legislatures from multiple states are writing a letter to the American people calling for a 50 state audit decertification where appropriate, possible
I think
convening
any
of the House of
letters or
Representatives.
anything get thrown in the trash. I think when people hoist up someone by their collar, it has to be a rogue judge, a rogue police agency that enforces the law of the land. And that's stupid to say. But they have
Well,
to go in
let's,
there and say, here's
Sean,
the proof. A judge
what
has
I
to say, here's the proof. And I've issued a warrant and you're under arrest.
Right. Sean, I want to hear your opinion because I agree with you. I've been extremely, very disheartened over what has happened here in my
Perfect word. Yeah.
Yeah. But after I found this document today that encapsulated what has gone on since the audit to now, there is some movement. And I want to go through this because this is very important. And the reason why this audit, Lisa, thank you for pulling this up, is very important is because it drills down what is happening and what is the effect that's churning through the system. And you're absolutely right. Everything that you're saying, they are trying their hardest. Look here, don't look there. It's a fraudulent audit. But I want to go through this, and then I want to show you the basic stats of fraud, which is in the second document. And then Lisa, the third document is Katie Hobbs, who she's a bad guy, what she says about the audit. And you can see the huge discrepancy. The battle is real. It's happening on the ground right now, Sean. It's happening in this state right here, right now. But all
When you
this,
talk, well, I want to say one thing.
sure.
When you talk about division, everyone talks about division until it gets to a certain point. And there's one thing that was mind-blowing under Trump. The fact that he would use this word and that the press used this word, deep state, the deep state, to hear that in mainstream media,
Yeah.
that's such a revelation. That couldn't have been said 20 years ago. That was a
Right.
boogeyman. That was fake. But to hear the acknowledgement and not the deep state is being destroyed. The deep state is being arrested. Not, but just like that's a faction. We have to admit there's two governments. There's the way it's supposed to be run and there's the way it is run. There's the oversight committee that oversee the checks and balances that oversee these agencies are compromised by these agencies. It doesn't work. And once we admit that, then it's obvious that it doesn't work. You can't fix this system that's not supposed to exist because this entity that's not supposed to exist is in control of the system. And we half admit it, but just accept it. We have to say that's crazy. That's not supposed. This isn't supposed to exist. So there's division, but once it comes to the division of our government, we stop there. We don't admit that it's completely divided and people are in control of it that were never meant to be in control of it.
Right.
One thing you do have control over still, the Supreme Court. That's it. It's the one thing that they're going after.
Mm-hmm. Right. Well, hold that thought because that's really important. And I'm on the same page. And Lisa, I think you are too. We are seeing, there is no constitutional law right now. And there's a handful of patriots, just a very few that are banging the drum in a way that I've never seen. So what we have had since the audit results came out, 92 state legislators from all across America have issued a demand letter calling for a 50 statewide 2020 election audit and a decertification following the explosive Arizona audit that revealed, how things were so fraudulent in a factual way. After the comprehensive audit of Maricopa County was completed, now here's our dog in the fight. Arizona Senator Wendy Rogers, I know she's only one person, you guys, but she is out there on Twitter like I've never seen someone tweet more than her. I mean, her megaphone is so loud. So she unveiled what she called the new Declaration of Independence, in which, now Sean, check this out, in which 41 state legislatures across America called for a 50 statewide 2020 election audit. And should these audits suggest a flawed election, mass decertification will result. Now, what she says is that today the number of state legislators that have signed, now this is since the audit, onto the letter has more than doubled, with 92 signatories joining in. Now, then, Lisa, you scroll down and there was that list from her tweet of all, yes, right there. So those are the people that have signed. You can click on that and it shows you who they are. Okay, this is the process. Unfortunately, we can't just go in and start arresting people. We have to go through this process. As I see it, it's a two-pronged process. It's a process with the Attorney General, and then we've got the legislators banding across America.
We could in Arizona, if there's enough proof that's been found.
Oh yeah,
that's what I'm saying is, if that happened in one state, any state that has started an audit or done it, as soon as they find enough, you don't have to do the full audit. Like, oh my goodness, look at this smoking gun.
Right.
When you find that, you see if one judge issues a warrant and people are arrested, and then when another judge says, "Oh, you can't do that," I think that's when we see the division. That's when we see the federal judge say no. We see the state judge say yes, and that's when we say the state says no. This person is in jail and we're trying them, and then the federal government says you can't do that. And then that state says,
well, let me finish, because at the end of this, they get into some constitutional law just a little bit. And you know what, Sean, this is the interesting part from at least the dive that I've done. We are constitutionally in unprecedented water. We only have 2 other cases on the books in 1960 where there was a decertification. We'll get to that in a sec. But the point is that we are in unconstitutional waters, because if there's the F word, F-R-A-U-D, that brings us into common law, and I'll get into that in a second. So there's already lots of legal banter as to, we've already got the evidence. We just need Branovich to say, dude, this is criminal. Then we start to move into pressing our Constitution into legal manifestation. So as the National File senior reporter reported back on September 28th, the number of voters in the 2020 presidential election in Maricopa County with no record of their existence far outnumber the margin of victory that Joe Biden supposedly achieved last year, thus putting the immense pressure on the Arizona Senate President Karen Fann to take action and move to decertify the results of the election. However, the constitutional experts across America have indicated that decertification would be sound legal recourse for a corrupted election after the fact. Okay, so they're saying, a lot of constitutional experts, you know what? If we find out certain things, we can decertify the election, and it's done at the state level. Okay, it's done at the state, not the federal level. We are in uncharted territory, but there are a couple of things to point to. We can point to the Hawaii election of 1960, when the governor subsequently certified another state of electors after they discovered an error in the initial certification. We can point to Section 2 of Title 3 of the United States Code that says when a state has an election and has failed to make a choice on the day prescribed by the law, which is, you know, the choice that was made, the assumption was that it was fraudulently given because of illegal votes. The electors may be appointed on a subsequent day in which such manner as the legislature of such state may direct. Note they're talking about the state, such state as the state may direct. This is not on the federal level. This is on the state level. So that recognizes the authority of the legislature to fix the problem. The state legislature is in control. We also, now this is really interesting, you guys, we also have a backdrop of common law, which is when you have a FRAUD, the actions taken pursuant to the FRAUD are unraveled after the discovery of the FRAUD, if the evidence really does come in as definitive, which we know, I'm going to show you in a minute, that the election and the electorals cast from Arizona were FRAUD fraudulently
Obtained, yeah.
yeah, then they should have been given in the other direction. Then I think there is ample authority to fix the problem, which would be to decertify. We don't have to live with a FRAUD election. Now, since then,
I want to ask you a question on that.
sure.
Because that is where that's where it gets confusing. Now
Yeah,
let's say that everything happens like that.
right,
Let's say that Arizona says it was an FR word and
right,
it's no good, and this should
right.
have went the other way. Now remember what you said. That person said, "We know Joe Biden won the election." I think that is true because, and everyone makes this argument that votes don't really matter. What really matters is the electoral college.
Okay.
And that was not fraudulent. Well, that went through the way it was supposed to. Those people's votes were real. They were there. They cast them. So that is, I think, the legal leg they'll stand on. So if Arizona says, nope, not our president, if Texas joins, if Florida, if 10 states say this was messed up, this was the setup, that's when I think the real, we're going to go legal, that's when I
Right.
think the real legal fight starts, because then
Yeah.
they can say, yeah, okay, fine. And now when I always listen to words mean something. And people have started saying when it comes to these audits, yeah, there was fraud, but there always is. And they're trying to use that argument like, yeah, everybody knows. People know how it works, but it wasn't enough to change things that much. Or, yeah, there was this way, but it wasn't as big enough to make a huge difference. But so that's kind of softening the blow of what comes out of the audits.
Mhm.
But when it comes down to it, that's, I think, the legal fight, because the people spoke one way, but the Electoral College went another way. And when it was certified back in January, I think that's what the people that were in the know were really scared of. That's what they wanted to hold it up for. That's why they
Right.
wanted things to be looked at before that certification. Because if
Right.
that certification isn't fraudulent, it was based on a fraud, but it wasn't. So it can get really messy and really confusing.
Well, and that's why I think, Lisa, can you show the second screen, Arizona stats? That's the
Yeah.
next one. Okay, I just want this up on the screen because this is the facts right here of the audit. And then they have all the support documentation that would actually go to a court of law. Because as I understand it, Joe Biden supposedly won by 10,000 some odd votes. What we have here, a sum of ballots with issue, is in excess of 400,000. These mean dead voters, people that haven't lived in the state for years, ballots that were unsigned, ballots that had no envelopes. I mean, it goes on, and they have this evidence, you guys. Like, you'd have to be, well, I don't even want to say blind, because blind people are smart and they can figure stuff out too. So the point is you can see the Biden margin awarded at the very bottom, Lisa, 10,547 total ballots with issues, almost 700,000. This is all documented. The evidence is out there. Reams and reams of audit and pictures and microfiche and on and on and on. So the evidence is very, very huge. Now, here's where, Sean, I absolutely agree with you. Every single person here says we're in uncharted waters. The only constitutional lawyers that I have read text from in regards to this say that this is just what I've heard from the lawyers. When fraud is proven in a court of law, criminal, FRAUD, okay,
Mhm.
that legally, as I understand it, does some type of null, like that could, quote unquote, decertify the elector's certification. But
I think people would have to be arrested, that's where the two governments comes in. If it's shown that there is the FR word, but that these people took part in it, they would have to be arrested. And for them to be arrested, you would have to have the system work.
right.
So that's where I think it would have to happen. If you may not be able to decertify the election, but you'll be able to arrest the vice president for being involved in the FR.
Right.
You
right.
understand what I'm saying? Because it is completely uncharted and a crazy place that we should never have gotten to.
Right. I know. And I mean, to me, I love this conversation and I love these statistics here because this is what they don't want us to know. And in my years of living, in my years of living and voting, I've never seen anything like this. And with social media, we have someone like Wendy Rogers, who is out there blasting information to anybody that will hear. So we have a system of communication across America that's brought in almost every state in the nation that says, hey, we need to peek under the covers. We think we might have a problem. And yes, we're going to sign your ballot. We're going to sign your request because this is the way our system works. At this point, until the system collapses, we have to operate within the system.
When it comes to propaganda, I've watched a news story on MSNBC or CNBC where they'll a 3-minute story. They'll spend 2 minutes of it making fun of cyber ninjas.
I know.
Cyber ninjas, and then it's so blatant.
Well, Lisa, go to screen number 3 because that's exactly what Sean is referring to, which is Katie Hobbs' statement. I have to tell you guys, after looking at all of this information, this is, I have to say, I mean, I hope I don't get in trouble for saying this, but
it won't be you, it'll be me that gets in trouble.
Yeah.
I will try. I am reading just a statement.
It will be me.
That she issued from, and she is the Arizona Secretary of State. Now, bear in mind, this is a woman that has come out publicly and has said that she is going to turn Arizona blue. I mean, she's made that announcement. She has almost nil political power. She's a newbie in the space. She's brand new. And this is what she said about the audit. So this backs up, Sean, what you're saying. The Senate president and the cyber ninjas dragged our state and our country through months of partisan political theater, culminating in a report that reinforces what election experts have been saying all along, that this exercise was a scam. Back to document number 2, where it breaks everything down. The dead people that voted, the ballots that had no addresses, the people that haven't lived in Arizona for years, the ballots that weren't even signed. That is not a scam. People wanted this. The people of Arizona wanted this recount. We are owed that. You, Katie Hobbs, work for me. You work for me. I pay taxes in this state. So that is wrong. This exercise was a scam. That is fake, phony, and false. That's her opinion. The partisan ballot review was never about affirming the results of an election. Instead, it was now this part here is also really wrong. It was an outright attack on our democratic process that has stoked threats of violence against election workers. It was a political stunt that created massive security risks, cost millions of dollars, and has shaken the faith in free and fair elections. Secretary of State Katie Hobbs, I will not be voting for her. That is an out-and-out lie. Period.
And there's another thing, Lisa was pointing at that story over there, and we don't want to get started in the Catholic Church because for this past week I've been really looking into some stuff with that. And it's weird how often
I hope
history
I'm
just
pulling
repeats
out.
itself and repeats itself and repeats itself. And the church has always been a central point in this. And it's happened again. The church has partnered
It's
with
never stopped.
the other side. And they're pushing a narrative to where if you're a priest or a bishop and you just speak regular Christian doctrine, the church will censor you. They will excommunicate you. Um, they've been doing it for years and years. Um, there's so much that they it's all just like every other time in history. Um, when the Nazis were finally beaten, where did they go? They went to the Vatican and they were hidden. Um,
Well, or did they Operation Paperclip?
it's so. I mean, it really, literally, history just keeps repeating itself, and that's what I've kind of been trying to say the past couple weeks. History repeats itself, and history always ends the same way. What side of history do you want to be on? Every time there's people that are burning books and you know uh, destroying culture, monuments, history, and trying to rewrite that and change it. They've done it every time through the ages, and that side always loses badly. Um, and I think that's where we're at. And that seems to be my argument now is just which side of history do you want to be on? You know?
Well, this is unraveling as we speak. What I'm wondering, you guys, is now that we're starting to see the effects, everything from open borders. I mean, I could go on and on. You guys know the top topics. FEMA camps. I mean, on and on and on. We're watching what little of America is now eroding away. I mean, just look to Australia, and that's going to be us. My question is that since we have a Second Amendment, Australia does not, other countries do not. Do we have a shot at reclaiming our Constitution?
No pun intended.
Yeah, exactly. No pun intended. Do we have a shot?
I've said this before. On a kind of a united consciousness of a country. Once a country gives up their guns, I think the way of thinking for all citizens changes.
Right.
I think that in the United States and in other countries, even like someone who's completely anti-Second Amendment, who thinks no one should have guns except for the government, they still know in the back of their mind that all these other people do, and they're going to back their right to say what they want to say. Right. But once they know that everyone doesn't have them anymore, I think it changes the way people think, and it takes away a lot of their I forgot the word, to stand up to their government, because they know that even if they don't agree with those people, they know those people are behind them. I mean, if I'm standing in line at the grocery store and someone comes in to rob it, even if the person in front of me is angry that I'm armed, it doesn't wants me to get arrested, I'm still going to defend that person as well as everyone there. And they know that. So, but I think that once a country gives up their arms, just the way that I think that they accept more, they and the thing about Australia is that they don't. And I watch news stories, and the reporters are like, it really is weird how we've just accepted this, and it's odd that we get confused at how the world is shocked and calling us a dystopian science fiction country now.
That's what I'm looking for right now is the Australian president's comment about we're going to have a closed economy by the 15th, and you will either be vaccinated or you. And I better need to watch my words.
Send me that so you can go look in the
Yeah,
mail.
I've got it right here.
Yeah.
Hold on one sec, guys. Let me.
But also the arrogance that he delivered that was what I was.
Incredible.
Oh.
It is incredible. Hold on
Literally,
one.
because it's literally like, what are you going to do?
It's just incredible. He said, I'm tired of talking about freedom.
Hmm.
It's so bold.
And old Joey tried to say the same thing.
Yeah.
Right.
This is just incredible. So,
So first of all, I can announce that by Friday the 15th of October, every single authorised worker that is on that authorised worker list, whether they be in Melbourne or in regional Victoria, will need to have had at least one dose of a COVID-19 vaccine. That is, if they want to continue working.
If there's people that don't want this mandatory vaccine, how do we manage it?
Well, then they won't be going to work.
Okay.
It's very, very simple. It's very simple. We want to open the place up. We want to. I'm not taking lectures on freedom from people who will hold all of us back. Right? We want to be free. We're going to be free. We're going to be open. And the key to that is getting these vaccination numbers up and up and up.
Does that mean you don't have confidence in that 80% number anymore?
No, not at all. We just got to get as many people vaccinated as possible. And it's not about the ultimate number.
But will there be exemptions? I know you just said there's a lot of...
No, there'll be detailed consultations, and I'm not looking to exempt anyone. I think I'm in the business of encouraging, and where necessary, through orders signed by the Chief Health Officer, mandating people getting vaccinated where they pose a significant risk. There's too much at stake. You will need to be double vaxxed as an authorised worker. Even when after we get to 80% and the authorisations are no longer there, the mandate, the rule, the Chief Health Officer direction will stay in place because cases will still be an issue then. But no, that's not the case. We're going to have a vaccinated economy and we're going to lock some people out because that is far better than locking everybody down. That's the decision that we've made. And I would appeal to people, these vaccines are safe and they work. So please go and get one.
that's the decision that we've made. Who's
Yeah.
made?
And he said that giving you the right to work. It's so crazy that and people accept it that your rights come from a government. Your right to take care of your family. That's your right to exist. That's God gave it to you. It's not.
This is the decision that we've made. I'm like, no, you don't make the decisions. That's not a republic of we the people. That's
Right.
not how decisions are made. It's insane. And here's the other thing. When he said we're going to have a locked, how did he say it? Vaccinated economy. Gosh, I keep saying the wrong words.
I know. Well, he said it, so it's
We're going to lock some people out
of the
and
economy.
then remember what happened. So this is announced for Australia. We know what kind of situation they're under. October 15th. Then we had the Facebook outage, and everybody was hearing that that they were going to have. Let me see if I can find. Oh, then the very next, literally the next thing on my feed is this information breaking. Your information is being sold on the dark web from the Facebook outage, whatever. So my brain starts running. Oh, we're gonna see the biggest credit. Get ready for the biggest credit hack in history. And is this the cover for the financial collapse? We know what's happening. Yellen has said, if you don't lift the debt ceiling by, I think it's October 18th,
Yeah.
we're out of money. So
They're starting to use
that.
it. Once again, I said
Then-
words are important, and I listen
Right.
to the words.
Is this-
And the words they're using are apocalyptic, financial. They're starting to ready people for the crash.
And the next story to come out is, let's see, that's the Italian nurse. The next story to come out, well, this exercise, whatever, is that the U.S. Federal Reserve. I mean, this is just coming out through my feed. This is all like the same day. Magically, the U.S. Federal Reserve might begin CBDC review process this week. So is this not this narrative? Do you guys see this rolling out? So in Australia, they're just telling them, we're locking you out of the economy. You either get the jab or not. We're having a locked economy. This is how it's going to happen. You're going to have a passport and you're going to be in the locked economy. But in America, they have to soft pour it out. So we're going to have a big hack. Everyone's going to lose their dollar. And we're going to make you whole through FDIC and give you digital CBDCs. And that's what I think is going to happen. I think it's going to be the cover for the financial collapse. They're going to make everyone whole, maybe get rid of their debt to soften it. I don't know what's going to happen. Whatever I think is going to happen won't happen because I don't think we can even imagine what's going to happen.
Right,
But
right.
this narrative rolling out that quickly, and I think this Facebook outage has something to do with it. I think this, when Biden gave them the list of please don't hit all our softest targets way back when. And now this magically rolls out that the CBDC might be in review.
Well, they've been reviewing it for
this
years.
week.
I was doing stories on it almost 2 years ago that they started looking at it. Just like with crypto, it's kind of either they pick up things that China are doing, or it's like they're adamantly China's doing it, so we hate it. And I do see CBDCs coming. Canada's been working on it for years. They're ready to roll.
But look what's happening. So my friends that live in New York went to dinner the other night, and literally you walk up and they say, we need to see your vax card. And you have to wear a bracelet. You're either getting an indoor or an outdoor bracelet. It's a little Jewish star.
Yeah,
You get a yellow
I've
one
been
or
saying
a
that
blue.
forever. Yeah, it's a gold star.
It's a gold star. You either get a yellow one or a blue one, and you either get to eat indoor or outdoor. And can you imagine when we have the CBDCs? And if we're forced into that because of some hack where we all lose our, we had the Facebook
computer
hack,
money
and we
got all screwed
had
up with a
our
hack.
computer
So
money because
let's
of
go all
Facebook.
computer money.
Yeah.
Facebook's fault.
Yeah.
It's not the Fed's fault. Like, do you
I
see
think with
this
the
play
Facebook
out?
shutdown, that happened just after this huge dump with the Panama Papers. I think 20 years ago, you would be hearing just shredder machines just going like crazy.
Mm-hmm.
But now they don't need to do that. They're just erasing a lot of things. I don't know if I trust this leak or this whistleblower, because everything, it seems like it's pushed to give a narrative of trust, and all of the people I don't trust, all the networks I don't trust, are picking it up.
Right.
And one of the big points is this disinformation, and the disinformation is on the other side. It's like, body image and all these other things are true, but then the things that are terrible is how they're pushing disinformation about the election being messed up, and causing the January thing. It seems very
Like a distraction, but
it seems like two different things. It's like, look at my right hand while my left hand is doing this. Because it seems to really push the narrative that everything that is messed up, that we think is messed up, is right. And everything that we already knew, that Facebook and Instagram pushed terrible body images and things like that for children, and get you hooked on dopamine and all that kind of stuff. Like, that's all real. Like,
I had heard that also, Phil, that I've been at homeschool all day. Today's our community day, so I haven't been able to see much of anything, but I'd heard that Trump's pages were restored. I don't know if there actually is or not. I haven't seen anything, but so I don't know if it's true. I don't know.
I think there was also some Twitter dialogue with Cliff and Jean-Claude, that questioned the page because it didn't seem to have the amount of followers that the other one had. So there was a little bit, I was a little unclear. They were showing screenshots on Twitter, and maybe it's not his account. They're not, I got the feeling that they weren't 100% sure that it's his original page, or maybe it's another page. But the point is that, it's very interesting because if they bring that back and then they bring back his Twitter, he wants his Twitter back.
Yeah.
We're
Well, did
gonna,
he say anything about it on Gab? Because his Gab is, I think we put it on there because he gabs a lot.
yeah. I think
Is
the
Gab still active?
Mm.
I haven't been on Gab in a long time.
Because that's kind of the horse's mouth. I think if it was his, he would say it there.
Why does my finger thing never work on this?
The other thing about Facebook, you guys, is their numbers are so down. They're such a desperate company now, that they're actually resorting to one of their major platforms is they're trying to get mothers to get kids on there, to get kids to sign up for Facebook so they can have like virtual play dates on Facebook. I mean, this is how desperate Facebook is to get relevant again, because they're losing their relevancy. And even with the boomers, they're getting sick of it too. I mean, it does not have a good reputation.
Mhm.
And if it's true that there's this big hack and, you know, it could expose people's fiscal banking information, I don't know what's going to happen to Facebook. I kind of feel, you guys, that the system is being torn apart, the limb by limb in different limbs, like it's being torn here, and then the financial system is being torn, then the voting system is being torn. Our legal system is already broken. Washington is broken. The educational system is breaking. And I think it's like almost like at some point, everything is going to fall on its own sword. And that's when the whole system completely breaks, and then we build it from scratch. We also, and I know I hate to say this, but it is not out of the question, we may have to divide our country in two.
What is it? What's that Lee Greenwood song? If I had to start again with just my children and my wife.
Yeah.
Yes, the voice 1 and 2.
So we have to be open to all kinds of outcomes of which none of us know. None of us know which way this is going to go. And I love these conversations because we're all just sort of, you know, chewing on the bone, so to speak. Like, what do you think? And what do you think? And because we have no truth and honesty in our government or our media and our banking and financial system, I mean, this whole thing with the debt ceiling is probably, they do this every 4 years, you guys. It's such a scam, and they make everybody afraid, and then they come rushing in at the last moment, and oh my God, we're the heroes because we put together a deal, you know, and it's just more debt and more debt and more debt, and they make it look like they did something heroic, and they create an environment to make us think that we're going to revere them. Well, what I think is happening now is just like in the Wizard of Oz, the curtain is being pulled back, you guys. And I'm not saying every single person is seeing, but I think a lot of people are seeing that have never seen before. I do believe that, and I hate to be trite and say like, oh, the Great Awakening and all the, you know, the catchy phrases, but I now see people are starting to question things that never question stuff.
Yes,
And
that people are starting to think critically that never thought.
never did. Right. And I'll tell you this, there was images yesterday on Twitter, I guess over the weekend in New York. The Brooklyn Bridge had such a protest and a march against the jab, like not to be jabbed. This is New York, the most liberal state. And it started with little rallies in Times Square. And now over the past 2 weeks, literally there was thousands of people on the Brooklyn Bridge on Sunday. You couldn't even drive across it. This is New York, you guys. Now, I don't know if they're afraid of these peaceful protests. They shouldn't be, but I've never seen people in New York turn out in hundreds of thousands protesting. You are not seeing this on MSNBC. You are not seeing it in the Wall Street Journal. You are not seeing it on any of the mainstream medias.
And I want to circle back because you brought up New York.
Don't say circle
Words.
back.
One thing I said. Words matter. And I'll talk about Cuomo. Cuomo put his hands up a woman's shirt, grabbed her boobies, and played with them against her will. And he did other things like say words or bump into people. Now, everyone kept saying sexual harassment, harassed women. There's
No,
certain
he
things he did that were assault.
Yes.
And the fact that he wasn't arrested for assault, it makes no sense whatsoever.
Right.
They had
No.
press conferences from the sheriff, and I watched them, and I kept thinking, and they said many times, arresting is not off the table. You need a press conference for that? Someone has admitted, he said, yeah, I did this sexual assault on this woman, and I feel bad. Well, arrest isn't off the table, but hey, okay. That's not that. If anything didn't show that the rules are for you and not for them, that was it.
Right.
To me, that was it. And the fact that no one would use the word assault really bothered me. And he just kept saying, harassment.
Right.
If a guy goes into work and he's like, hey, nice boobs, Jill, he's harassing her. He's gonna get in trouble. But if he goes and literally puts his hands down her shirt, he'll be fired, but he'll be arrested. And there's no reason why Cuomo shouldn't have been arrested. Because then if he was, he wouldn't have the ability to probably run again.
Do you think, Sean, do you think that this could go way of the Harvey Weinstein thing where there's got to be criminal charges pressed and then they've got to go to trial? And do you think they're going to do that and then make he's going to have to wait 2 or 3 years like Harvey Weinstein did and then they put him in jail?
No, I think he's fine. I think he's going to run for office again. That's why they set him up for it. They were going to impeach him. If they impeached him, he couldn't run again. And they dropped that once he stepped down. I think he made a deal, and that's why he stepped down, because they're like, we won't impeach you. We'll let it go away. If things continue the way they are, he could run again. I think that's what I think. I think there's two different sides. I think if their government wins in the next few years, that he'll run again. I think if his government loses, then he'll probably go to jail. But his family they're a mafia family. They're a mob family. They just went into politics and information instead of drugs and prostitution. They run it that way. All of his kids went to Harvard, and some of them are boneheads. I mean, they can't answer basic science and math questions when they've been called on for it, and they have Harvard degrees. I mean, so
that's what that whole pay to play when that chick that married the Massimo guy got caught.
Lori Loughlin and all that.
Lori Loughlin, all that started coming out. I think that's where some of that was starting to be brought to light. Was that that's where these elites are having their kids go to these schools, and that's how they all meet, and maybe that's like the baby elites. I don't know. I guess there's different levels of all this stuff.
That F. Joe Biden thing with NASCAR, that's just another.
And I think that was the
so
beginning.
Funny. Did you watch the interview?
Yeah, and
they're screaming. She goes, "Oh, they're really saying I love you, Brandon. Look at that.
Let's go, Brandon.
Let's go, Brandon. Yeah,
let's go, Brandon." And then Brandon even put on his own Twitter, "Let's go, Brandon." And so I think that's the beginning of the exposure, though, of the mainstream media. Look, people, they're lying to you. And do you really? I don't think any American that watched that believes the media telling them, "Oh, they're saying let's go, Brandon." No American watching that believes the media trying to. They're saying let's go, Brandon. No one believed her. So how many other things have they lied to you about? If that's the first thing you think they lied to you about, I promise you there's a lot more.
Well, and the other thing too, you guys, I've never seen such mass disrespect and protest, and I say disrespect lightly, this whole movement of F Joe Biden being chanted at football games, large stadium events, it is crazy. It is crazy. And you don't think that that isn't hitting home to the elites? I mean, that is such a strong signal. And these are a mixed age range. This is not just the older people. There's a lot of young people that are starting
More.
to
It
see.
started in college sporting events. That was
Right.
a big thing. Yeah.
Big thing. And
College
I've
event.
never,
It's also now in nightclubs. It's happening in nightclubs. It's happening everywhere.
And,
Right.
and the same thing happened with Trump, but it wasn't people doing it. It was elitists and actors and leading it. And this is completely organic people. So it's a whole,
Yeah,
it's a whole
there's a sentiment shift, and I've said this, Lisa, before on the show. I look at sentiment and the Second Amendment. I kind of put those two together, and we are the only country, to my knowledge, in the modern world, first world country that has as many. I don't know. Can I say the word GUNS? And a armed society is a polite society. Australia is not armed.
Right.
The UK is not armed. New Zealand is not armed. Okay. So we have a few unique things, but Shauna, I'm not saying that what you're not saying isn't 100% true. But what I'm wondering is, when I'm seeing these protests of the F Joe Biden and all this business, I've never seen this stuff before, you guys. And I do believe I'm older than both of you, so I'm going to pull the age card. But I think the sentiment is kind of getting to a boiling point. And I think people are really, like, I'm starting to see stuff like the protest on the Brooklyn Bridge on Sunday. I couldn't believe the whole bridge was closed down, you guys. I've never seen that before. So I do believe that there's a sentiment that's spreading that's saying, holy smokes, we might lose it all. What have we done? We've made a big mess here. We made a mess.
Here's one thing I want to touch on just before. So one of the things, as you guys are mentioning the Second Amendment, that was one of the things that in my letter to the American people in the Token magazine, which I'll put a link in the description. I'll go back, but I wrote a letter to the American people in Token magazine when I went and spoke at the Bitcoin conference tech summit in Utah. And I told them basically our First Amendment right is the most important, and it is followed up by the Second Amendment only because the
make
Second
sure nobody
Amendment
messes with the first.
is to, yes, make sure that no one messes with the first. That is why it's so important. And it's
Right.
important that you be proficient with your Second Amendment tool to be able to protect your First Amendment. So
Right.
anyway, very passionate about that. And I had an
I,
opportunity. I
I,
was
want,
really honored
I want to
that,
hear more about Utah too.
yeah, it was amazing. Mom A and I talked about it yesterday on the show, and I'll be happy to share with you guys
I
more.
want to say something to people in the chat real quick. Big Mike, Bread and Circus. The difference between this and Rome is that in Rome, the government paid for the bread and circus, whereas we're paying for our own bread and circus.
Right.
Tom made a mention here that evil is done. And when it comes to the Second Amendment, there's something that always hits me, that evil is evil, whether you have guns or not. People talk about like the Sandy school shooting, the one that got Alex Jones kicked. And it was terrible and it was bad. But the same day in China, there was a school stabbing where a crazy man went in there and stabbed more people than that happened in the school shooting. So evil is going to happen. Whether or not people can defend themselves is what the Second Amendment is about. In all through Europe, they have knife crime. Knife crime needs to be, curtailed, and they're actually talking about knife control, to where you have to register your kitchen knives. And you can only buy so many. It's not you're laughing. It's serious.
No, but to lead into that, so here was my other point that I wanted to touch on. This is happening Attorney General Merrick Garland is mobilizing the FBI against parents who are any
Mhm.
parent that is against CRT, which is critical race theory. They are mobilizing the FBI to look into or address these parents and to consider them as domestic terrorists.
Terrorist, yeah. You sent me this,
Hmm.
and this is, I think, the worst thing out of everything
Right.
we've talked about.
This is
Right.
this is
This is
literally.
where our governors in all 50 states should stand up
Mhm.
and say, no, 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 no.
Yeah.
This is our state. This is our
Right.
local governments that you're interfering with federal police. You know, before the NSA, the CIA, the DHS, there was the FBI. And when the FBI was going to be started, people were said, no, no, no. We cannot have a federal police force. There's no damn way you can have military or police on a federal level to affect the states. That is not okay. And it took a lot to get a federal police force. And they're supposed to be restricted as hell. And not only have they grown to a monster that is abused and used as a political tool now, but there's all these other agencies that were not supposed to ever exist. A, a department, the NSA spying on its own people,
Mhm.
that's disgusting.
Yeah.
The forefathers would go nuts over
And the
that.
fact that you are, I mean, like, I recently made the decision to be a homeschool mom and all this, and the fact that you are being threatened that this
Hmm.
radical idea of critical race theory, which is actually very racist in itself, and wants people of color to look at themselves as victims and people, white people to see themselves as oppressors.
Yeah.
Um, to then anyone that does not agree with critical race theory to be labeled a domestic
Yeah,
terrorist.
but
Literally.
whatever it is, whatever that the thing that they're mad about, it doesn't matter. It matters that those people are mad at their local government and they need to deal with it. And states should not allow it. That's like the straw that broke the camel's back for me. There's no way. Um, and that's the thing. People have been, but it's our fault. And Beatles has made the point. It's our lazy, complacent asses that have let people just go on. I just want to work and pay my taxes, and you can't do that.
Right.
Someone has to run for
And you know what,
something.
Sean? One of the things that Wendy Rogers on Twitter, people ask her all the time, what can I do, Wendy? I'm so discouraged. I feel so helpless. She said something very fundamental, but she said, get involved at the very grassroots get on the school board, get on your county board of supervisors, because she said right now, she said, you'd be amazed at how many openings there are. She said, you could run for your local school board. She said, but
Yeah.
we need, see, the thing is I'm going to say the liberals, they tend to get into local politics. I have noticed over the years when I've dallied my toe into politics that there's not as many Republicans, at least in the states that I lived in. So I encourage people that I don't know how it would work with our careers. Everybody's overwhelmed, but perhaps we need to reevaluate our priorities. Spend less time watching Netflix, spend less time on Facebook. Please spend less time on Facebook. Spend more time with your kids and maybe decide within the family that you're going to run for one of these local, because we've got to get in at the grass. We got to get in at the bottom.
You can't beat the Republican Party. You can't beat the Democratic Party. I am so sorry. I'm so sorry I said that. You cannot beat the Democrat Party. Don't ever use the word Democratic. It's a scam that they've used for the past 2 years. Democrat Party. You can't beat it, okay? But you can beat it on a school board, on a mayor, on a county level, because they don't have as much power.
Yeah.
You can work and go around to those doors and knock on them.
Yeah.
You can meet people and you can get the votes. Now, once you get to a state level or a national, there's no way. There's no way that they have too much power. You can't knock on. That's the whole basis of what we're talking about. They could fake it until they make it. They have tons and tons of money to put into it. But on a local level, it's still a level playing field.
Mhm.
You can go get 500 votes, 300 votes. You can win, and you
Right.
can take back and that's all that matters. I mean, it's one thing
Right.
that with Project Sunlight that I believe in.
Operation Sunlight.
Operation, really? Because I say operation and I
Yeah.
thought it was wrong.
You said project.
I
Operation.
know. I say up, but when I said operation, I thought anyway that you taking back your local government is that's the most important thing, because they've been working on it for 20 years, 30 years.
Right.
College is down, and it's come to fruition.
There's a link in the description. I put it in all.
Will you put it in the description? Because I've looked for it many times in the old
Yeah, I
videos.
put it. It's in all of my videos. OperationSunlight.com is in every description
scroll
of
down.
every video.
Okay.
It's in all my videos. OperationSunlight.com. There's an opportunity that you can find ways where you can get connected on a local level, and lots of different ways. So,
You know, there's Operation Sunlight, New York. Did you know that?
I did not.
In searching for it, I found that the New York government, operationsunlight.gov or .org.
And you go to this action steps.
Yeah.
Oh, they've updated it since I was on here last. This is really good.
But I think I think that this and that's what scares them. That's why they want to bring in the FBI, because they know now that they've pissed people off on that level with those people,
Right.
that those people are going to run, and they're going to lose control of those
Yes.
little tiny microcosms.
Right.
That scares the crap out of them.
Yep. And that's basically, Sean, what Wendy Rogers was saying. She was like, you guys, you just don't know how much effect you can make on the local level, how much power they have in your day-to-day existence, in your kids' day-to-day existence. So,
Yeah, absolutely.
I have to tell you that recently, I was really frustrated. My Republican representative voted to pass the stimulus bill, and when I called somebody that I really respected, they were like, well, she had to get it into the next step so that then we can tweak it and get it back to the other thing and playing games. And I was like, no, it was an unconstitutional bill. If the system is broke, let the system break, burn it down, like quit playing the game. And he's like, well, we have to let it go, and we have to let it massage it and let it do this and let it do. And I'm like, no, let it break. If it's an unconstitutional system, let it break. Let the Constitution stand and let this broken system fail.
Did you watch the Sousa thing you sent me, Dinesh? He said something that was so true.
No,
he said the Constitution was written
during lunch, and
to annoy people and to stop people and to put roadblocks that people have to work around, because for sometimes it'd be easier to do it a certain way. It might even be the ends justify the means kind of thing, but the Constitution is there to stop it so that you don't make compromise, so you can't make compromises. That's why it's there. And
that's where, when our representatives are not making those constitutional decisions, but they say that they are representing Republicans that are, if you're going to say you're a Republican or you're representing Republicans, constitutional Republican, then you need to make those choices that support the Constitution. And if you don't, then you need to resign, because you're not making the decisions for the people that elected you in that position. And that just enrages me. And so I can't support somebody that is going to do that. And you can't say, oh, well, it's because she's really intelligent and she's massaging the system. No. F the system. Get your tail out of there. The system's broken. The system needs to die. And we need to go back to a constitutional republic and end this thing. Let it burn.
Yeah.
Get
and
out
Lisa,
on fire.
And I'll take that on the whole level. I think our whole system nationwide and globally need to break. I never thought I would say that, but at this point, I agree with you. And you're taking it from the macro. I'm taking it up to the micro level.
Yeah.
This whole thing is to come apart. There's no salvaging. The only thing left that I think we have is our Constitution and our Declaration of Independence, and those have to stand until we as a people, not as a government, as the people
Right.
that we want something.
I honestly feel the same way. I was thinking about it today. That, but not only. I mean, I think I probably want to go further than you guys. I think that all we need to have and start with is just that. I think everyone
Right.
currently in government should be fired. Good,
Right.
bad. I'm sorry. And I think everything needs to be replaced. I think every agency, with the exception of the CIA and the FBI, should be shut down. DHS, everything. I think it should all be
All of
completely
that.
shut down. And I think so many people should be fired. I think every house should be completely clean. Even if you're doing a great job, I'm sorry.
Right.
It's a
Because it's
cancer.
all built on
And
corruption.
you're good.
and
You're
this
good.
corrupt
You're good.
Yeah.
You're good. Flesh that needs to be cut out. I'm sorry.
Right. I agree, Sean. I agree. Yeah.
And we,
Yeah,
and
and if they are doing a great job,
let it
then
happen.
as we rebuild, they could be rehired, or you know what I mean, brought back.
Yeah,
to
they
where
can run again for office
Yeah.
and let the people decide.
Yeah.
The people decide.
That
I'll
would
tell
be
you
great.
what, we have a vote here in Arizona coming again. I got a pamphlet, and I'll tell you, when I go in there to do my vote, I'm going to be all over those voter people, and I'm going to say, listen, don't take this personally. I want to see my vote. I want to see it go in the machine. What am I writing this with? Is this machine connected to the internet? I am going to punch holes, and I'm going to say, listen, guys, please don't take it personally, but I am voting for some local people, and this is very important to me. So this is coming up soon here in Arizona because I got this pamphlet in the mail, and I'm like, okay, let's see what's going on now. But this is the kind of vigilance until the system breaks that we now need to go in and question everything. Am I signing with a Sharpie? Where do I sign? Do you not want to see my voter ID? I have one here in Arizona. They issued it to me. Let me show it to you.
Same thing with parties. I don't understand why there's parties. Literally, our founding father said that one of the things that could destroy us is a political party system. I don't know why they're not shut down as monopolies. I mean, when you only have two people you can vote for, did anyone get onto the stage when it came to other parties that ran? Were they allowed to debate? Were they allowed to compete? Was their voice allowed to be heard? That's one of the reasons why
It's all about the
McCarthy
money.
ran, is just so he
Yeah.
could bring up subjects.
And why is it that you have to have these giant CPAC things or whatever? Like why is that? Why is it about the money and not about the ideas?
And when it comes to money, see, this is all
Yeah.
like the reshaping. I don't think anyone should be allowed to give money to a candidate that's not in their state, because it's not your freaking business.
That's
When it comes to the amount of authority that states are supposed to have, it's none of your business.
well,
So
and
I
that
don't think
brings up a
I
great
think if
point,
you cut
Sean.
that off, that would number one, it would destroy any kind of PAC that wasn't within a state. If that's not on a national level, they have no business. So what's the point of having a party on a local or county level if they're not really going to be able to bring you anything? I don't think there should be an all Republican thing to check. Promotes laziness, an all Democrat thing to check. It promotes laziness, and it's one of the excuses of the election. Oh well, these just got accidentally checked. So yeah, you did vote for these three other people, but you also clicked all Republicans so that are all Democrats, so that these people that you really wanted, that vote didn't go through. It just went for everyone. I think parties are terrible.
I think that brings up, which I know we are a little over here, but that brings up another point. We haven't even got into, if they get into audits in Florida, there were felons who had someone paid off their debts so that they were able to vote, which is completely illegal because you're not allowed to receive anything as a benefit of then giving your vote, which if somebody paid off your debt, then you were given a gift to give your vote. So that's a whole.
We've arrested a lot of people in Texas. I don't know if you guys have seen stories, but a lot of people for voter fraud, and it was
Good.
giving people like $5,
Oh, I do
or
remember those videos of that lady.
people getting like a gift,
Gift cards and
and
stuff.
and then they had video of like people, and it's usually old people, because there's like programs to bring the ballot and here, fill out. Now you said you wanted to vote all Democrat. I mean, there's so many.
Mhm.
You just tick this box for all Democrat. Like, well, I don't like this one guy, and that brings up the all Democrat thing. I don't like that one guy. He's a Democrat, so I wanted to vote Republican. Well, it's easier if you said you wanted to do that. Didn't you want to do that, Gladys? You just click right here,
Yeah, right.
and that person got arrested because that was it was all it was a lot of hidden camera stuff, but it's all local news agencies. And that's another thing. Everyone said it when CNN came out that you can't have corporate owned news because it's not news. News has to be independent. And everyone's just like, shut up. It's not going to happen. Oh, it's ratings. And ratings are, and people are going to want to go after the news to get that story, to get the ratings. It's not true. Once you get into those billionaires, they don't need the ratings.
Yeah.
That becomes a propaganda arm. And it is. You can watch Fox, and it's literally propaganda. And they talk crap about it. The other side, they talk crap about MSNBC. They talk crap about CNBC, NPR. And then you watch MSNBC or CNN, and they literally talk crap about Fox and how and they're state-run. And they each talk crap about the media, which is just, it's ridiculous.
Meanwhile, they probably all go
They
out
are
to
the
dinner
media,
together, and it's probably
So it's the mainstream media,
Yeah.
It's like, dude,
promote each
you're
other.
you're the biggest. I mean, when Fox makes fun of the mainstream media, but they're the biggest, highest rated news agency there is, that doesn't make any sense.
But check this out, Sean. CNN, it's documented. They are losing viewership. It's huge.
Oh yeah. Late
So
night
it's-
TV is losing viewership to Gutfield. It's and did you see the Colbert thing with the dancing needles?
Oh my
Oh,
gosh, that was so
God,
creepy.
that was really creepy.
It's cringe.
That's
It was so cringe. How do people not see this is propaganda? I think when history looks back, it'll be worse than Hitler's, Hollywood, which was literally rivaled Hollywood at the time. I mean, they made tons of movies, and it was all subtext, and it was very it was patriotic for their side. Just like during the war, so many of our movies were all, there's a patriotic undertone. That's what all these things are now. It's so all of our media. When historians look back, it'll be so obvious.
Mm-hmm.
Look at the man with the dancing needles.
The only thing that we have, Sean, that we don't know, is the effects of the alteration with the brain bleeds and all of the physical ramifications. I'm not even sure that people will remain, cognitively aware. Like, we could have a huge cognitive problem. Already they're talking about it. Cliff has shown some data that shows there's more car accidents now. There's all kinds of weird things happening among the people that are receiving the jab that's not being reported on a cognitive level. So what I believe we've never had in modern history is something that tampers with our brain on the level that this is on mRNA and the graphene oxide and the spike proteins. This kind of throws a whole new...
I'll tell you something scary real quick. It happened to me this weekend. Lisa knows I went to the hospital. The hospital with medical professionals. And I was in there, and the nurse said, have you been vaccinated? And I said, yeah. And she said, okay, how many shots? I got the Johnson & Johnson a while ago. Okay, how many have you had? I looked at my son, he looked at me, it's like, is she serious? And the other nurse and I think a doctor, like, yeah, have you had any of the boosters? I said, I had the Johnson & Johnson months ago. Like, right, but how many have you had after that? Have you had any? And then I said to the nurses and the doctors in the room, there are no boosters. It's the Johnson & Johnson shot. It's a traditional vaccine. and none have ever been authorized or made. You medical professionals. And they said, really? I thought no, because it's a traditional vaccine. I even said this, it's not an experimental RNA shot. It is a traditional vaccine. I said, oh, okay. And then I looked into it, and for Moderna and for Johnson & Johnson, there's been no approved boosters.
Right.
And they halted those. Everything is pushing the Pfizer because that needs all of these boosters. And they're trying to really push the narrative that those aren't as good. My son said, hey, Dad, it's only 80%, effective, the one you got. And I said, I told you that I would not get the experimental shot whatsoever. I got the Johnson & Johnson for you, not for me. I said, but it's really, when it came out, it's not part of their narrative, and they've put it on the shelf. A traditional, regular old, real vaccine. They're not giving it to people. For poor people, in countries where they can't afford or can't get to medical attention, wouldn't a one-shot thing be much better than one you have to keep getting? But no, we're going to go with this narrative where people have to keep getting more and more and more, which sounds a lot more like an experiment than vaccine to me.
Right.
But medical professionals in the emergency room do nothing. They were going to give me crap because I've only had one vaccine shot.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure they would have loved to have hooked you up with more.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I was worried sick because he didn't text me back, and I almost blew
Right.
his cover. And I was literally 30 minutes away from having a Sheriff Will check on him, but he called me back, so it was fine. So, lesson to everyone out there: do not make sure you text me back when you tell me that you go to the hospital, or I will sick the sheriff on you.
Also, I'm going to say something that is this is something I heard. I would definitely not suggest that you do this, because I definitely am absolutely super pro-vaccine, and I believe in it. I think everyone should get it 5-10 times maybe. But if you go to your doctor, regular doctor, if they ask you if you are stuck, and you tell them, oh yeah, I got the J&J, but a long time ago. I wasn't supposed to get it that early, but I got it. There's no real proof of that. And then once they put it in your records, they check that box, yes, that you have been, it's done. It's in your medical records, and you have that on file. I thought that was interesting.
Well, that's good to know.
Yeah.
Good information. Thank you for sharing that.
Yes, a doctor friend of mine told me that.
Good to know. All right, guys, we're here to share information and make sure everybody is safe and making good choices out there. So thank you both for joining me, and we'll see you guys next time here on The New Normal. Take care.